Are you able to see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. Let it load. Loading, let it load.
Okay.
So apart that, did you see the text APIs, label APIs?
Yeah. Yes.
So are you able to understand it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's loading. Okay. So this is your project. Let me close all. And so basically, you are not you are able to create the elements in the view, right? Like this text input button, but you are not able
Yes.
to control the behavior of the elements.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so let's see that one. Okay, let me first run the application. So we have the text label input and a buttons, different types of buttons. Okay, so when this app runs, we get all these input elements displayed. Okay, but
Okay.
the main thing will happen in the controller. For this home view.xml, there will be a home controller.js. Okay, so in this one you will see that sap.ui.define and a library has been declared. Okay, so this is the standard SAP UI5 library. Okay, so if we have this library controller, we need to declare that controller in the function which we are using. This is the main controller, right? So and then this controller returns whatever we write. Suppose if we want to have on button press, we write a function that this should do some action. Okay, display the pop-up that you have clicked this button. Okay, so basically the controller has three hook methods. Okay, on init, on before processing, on after processing. Okay, so like module pool, you have like in SAP UEFI also you have these three hook methods. We call that hook methods because it is the methods that is given by the framework. Okay. So when we create it, sometimes it doesn't come, sometimes it comes. Okay, but the first standard hook method is on init. Okay, so on init, and then we need to write the function. Okay, and then we need to put this. So on init means like basically when the app starts, what are the things need to be performed? Okay, we will declare those things in the init method.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have the app displayed. Okay, so we have spoken about like enabled, disabled in the previous class. Okay, so if it is enabled, if it is disabled, how to enable it. Okay, so we'll see, we have the buttons, right? So we will see that one, how to enable the input element, and how to display the other buttons. Okay, so go to the home view. Okay, so let's change the accept, emphasized, type emphasized. So here this should be there. Text, I say here enable input element. Okay, so I'll take another button as well. Okay, and I say disable input element. Okay, so, and we need to write an event for this. So the event is press for button. Okay, click enable. Okay, so for like disabling also, we write a press event on click disable. Okay, so we need to implement those methods. Okay, so on click enable, on click disable. Okay, so need to say colon function or event. Okay, and we say that what happens, let's see, before enabling, let's see whether this method is triggering any event or not. So for that, let's check. Okay, alert.
Okay.
Click the enable button. Okay, likewise we have written on click disable. Okay, so I say function or event, and then alert, you have clicked disable. Okay, let's see whether this works or not. Okay, don't worry about this one, because alert we don't use. It's a JavaScript, right? So it gives like that one. It's not an error, but it says the best practices. I will tell you the how to design the best practice, how to do effectively. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. You see that there are two buttons now came: enable input element, enable disable input element. So when I click this one, we are getting the events file. Okay. You click the enable button, you click the disable button. Okay. Now our task is to enable this input element. Okay, so to enable the input element, we need to have the ID of that element. What is the ID of this element? ID input. Okay, so we copy this ID input element to get this one. Let's say where input element equal to say this dot by id, okay, dot get value. Okay, so as said, this input has in the previous classes we have discussed as what are the input element attributes method. Okay, so get value means whatever text is there in the input text input element, that value we will get. Okay, so this dot by id, okay, we'll get the id and the input element attributes and methods. Okay, so I'm taking the using the get value method to get the value of the input. Okay, and let's display that value. Okay, first so alert input element, comment this, and then I will see this. So we have in by default the input element as Danny, right? So I could able to print the Danny.
Value.
Okay, value. So get value will get the value of that input element. Okay, so now our task is to enable and disable the input element. Okay, so to enable the input element, okay, so what I will do is this dot by id of id input dot get set set enabled is true. Okay, so save and click refresh. You see now the input element is
Change. We are now. We
I
can
am
edit
able
now.
to edit it. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Now I want to disable it. Okay. So what I do is I just simply make this false.
Okay.
So Danny is enabled. The input element is enabled. When I click on input and enable input element, when I click on disable input element, you see I cannot now edit it.
Okay.
Okay, so this is how we make the use of APIs. Okay, so by default, when the here we have this button disable input element and enable input element. Okay, by default the only the enable input element should be visible and the disable input element should not be visible. Okay, so in order to
Okay.
have that, let's give an ID for both input elements and as well for the buttons as well. So ID equal to ID en ID enable. Okay, I put en. Okay, env I will put enable. Okay, so for the other button I'll put ID button disable. Okay, so I have these two, so I take this ID. Okay, and in the init method what I do is this dot by ID, okay, dot set visible false. Okay, so when I click, so I'm initializing that this button should not be visible. Okay, I can do other way as well. Okay, I'll tell you first this way by how to use the use the APIs and control the element in the controller. Okay, so
Okay.
okay, so now you see that disable is not there button. So if I click enable, it enabled, but this button should be disabled, and that button disable enable button input element should be visible.
Yes.
Yeah, so the trick we have to follow is in this one, when you are coming to this one, we need to enable id but enb, right, dot set visible false. Okay, and we need to make but disable
True.
true. Okay, likewise we need to do this in the disable as well. Okay, true false. Okay, now you see enable input element, and that enable input element got disappeared, and you see disable input element. So when I click on a disable input element, this one, the text is the input element is got enabled false, and you are getting enable input element. This is how you need to play.
Okay.
Okay, so and another thing, okay, so you have seen that why the input element by default is false, is enabled, is disabled, because in the input we have an attribute called enabled, and we are making it false. Likewise, okay, if you don't want to initialize something in the screen, we can put like we have other buttons, right? Reject. Okay, say visible equal to false. Okay, let me say. Okay, now you see all the buttons got disappeared.
Okay.
So if I click enable, the input element is getting enabled. Okay, and
Enabled.
I'm
Yeah.
able to, okay,
And yeah.
and able to enter the text. When I click on disable, only one button you are able to see, and the text got input element got disabled.
Disable. Yes.
Yeah, this is how you need to play with the controller. Okay, and
Okay.
if you don't want to initialize that in the init method with the using the getting the IDs and setting the enabled method or setting the visible method, you can also do it in the view by using that attributes.
Okay.
Okay, this is how
Okay.
you need to play with these things.
Okay.
Okay, so
Okay.
now you are able to you're comfortable with input and label text and buttons, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, good. So practice this one and we'll see how it goes.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Let me see what next topic will go. Okay, so you're comfortable with HTML, XML. So you have practiced this one, HTML, XML.
HTML I have done.
Okay.
XML I have not done.
Okay, but you are able to follow, right?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, because as you have seen that in the view, we all write the XML code only.
Okay.
We have seen the introduction to view and the controller. Okay, so how to creating a view we know. Okay, understanding the view control. Today you have understood how you can control the behavior of the input elements in the controller. Okay, there are a lot of things. Okay, you can understand this is a basic thing. Okay, there you have told the hook methods. Okay, on init, on after rendering, and on before rendering. Okay, so these hook methods on after and on before rendering is like same as a module pull. Okay, which you have written, which you know in ABAP. Okay, here also same concept, like before the view is getting displayed, what need to be done. Okay, how the behavior of the input elements need to be changed, you can control that. Okay, using the on before rendering. And if after rendering the view elements, so what behavior or what type of how you, if you want to manipulate the data, what need to be done after the rendering has happened, you can write it in the on after rendering. Okay, and on init method is only triggered once. Okay, if you come back, if you go back to another view and come back, or the on init will not be called. Okay, likewise there is another hook method called on exit. So when you are exiting the view, you need to do some perform things, that you need to close the connection to the database, or you need to do some logic that so that the application does well. So then you need to write that code in the on exit. Okay, so there are 4 hook methods. One is on init, on after rendering, on before rendering, and on exit. Okay,
Okay.
so this is the simple exercise which I have shown, that how to use a simple sample application to disable buttons, enable buttons, disable text, enable text, hide text, hide buttons. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So so we need to see. Okay. Before going to forms, I will tell you something about checkbox. Okay, drop down, select checkbox, drop down, and combo box. Okay, so these 3 things we will be using, right? The labels, text, input elements, buttons, checkbox, drop down. These 3 things will be used in the uh, forms, right?
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
let's see the checkbox.
Okay.
So for drop down and combo box, you need to know the JSON first. Okay, then only you can we can use this check combo box and drop down. Okay, so in the previous
Okay.
class we have discussed about the JSON little bit in the JavaScript, right?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
I will tell you next tomorrow about JSON, and then we can go for combo box and drop down.
Okay.
Okay. So once we complete these 2 elements and JSON, we can build a form.
Okay.
Okay, and we'll see after building the form, we will create a sample such that we will do some validations on the input fields, such that yeah, like if you take the person should have a name, age, address, okay, how much he is earning per month. Okay, so we will collect these details and put it in the JSON model. Okay, so for that we need
Okay.
to know the JSON, and then we can build the form, that one. Okay, in the validations we will be going to see that in the name number should not be entered. Okay, and in the age text should not be entered, only numbers. And the range should be 0 to 100. The age cannot be 0, but and age cannot be negative. Okay, it should be between 1 and 100. Okay, those type of validations we need to do. So once that is
Okay.
done, I will tell you about the table. Okay, so in the form we'll be creating name, age, person, address, salary. Okay, but these details, when you click on add form, add save form, those details should be saved somewhere, and it should be displayed in a tabular format. Okay, so then we'll go to the tabular format. Okay, so so these are the contents which I'm going to discuss with you. Okay, I will teach with you. And
Okay.
okay, so keep in mind, so that I'm preparing you, so that you also be prepared. Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so first let's see the checkbox, how it looks. Okay, so our dictionary is, Bible is XLP UFI explode. Okay. Okay. So here you'll see checkbox. Okay. So checkbox allows user to select a subset of options. Okay. So if you want to offer an on-off setting, you can use switch control instead. Okay. But we'll see what this checkbox is. Okay. So here you see checkbox. So we can enable or disable. Okay, and you see there are options of enable, disable. So option E is disabled. Okay, and you see grouping of checkboxes. Okay, and you see warning, error. Okay, there will be success also. This I will be telling you about this states in the other class. Okay, but for our criteria now is how to use a checkbox. Okay, so the syntax of like we'll see the XML how it looks. So it is checkbox, and there is an attributes called text to type that to the text to be visible, and selected true or false. By default it is selected is true. Okay, and if you want to disable the checkbox, you can put, there is an attribute called enable. Okay, so you see here some are checked. Okay, some are not checked. Okay, it's because there is an attribute called selected. So if you say selected equal to true, that will be selected.
Okay.
Okay, and you see there is a value state. Some are in red color, some are in orange color. Okay, so these are the value states which SAP has given by default. Okay, so value state, if you say warning, that comes in orange color. Okay, if you say success, that comes in green color. Okay, if you want, if
Okay.
it is in the red color, the value state is
Error. Error. Okay.
okay. So let's
Mhm.
see these things. Okay, so let's go to our application
Mhm.
and we'll see this checkbox. Okay, let's use the attribute text. Okay, text equal to select me. Okay, uh, and simple attribute will go one by one. Okay, you have this option. Okay, you see this one comes. Okay, so now I'll tell you another container. It's a layout. Okay, there is a layout called VBox. Okay,
Okay. Okay.
that puts all the elements
Mhm.
in a vertical manner. It comes down. Okay, so
Okay. Vertical box. Huh?
vertical box, VBox.
Okay.
Okay, these comes under layouts. This is a vertical layout. Vertical box is a layout. It comes in the layout. V box, H box. Horizontal layout,
Oh,
horizontal box, vertical box. Okay.
okay. Okay.
So we'll see another one. Checkbox. I will say or select option. We'll put option. Option is better. Option E. Option. Okay. So I have attributes say enabled equal to false. Okay, and I'll put another one option C. I'll say selected equal to true. Okay, so you will see this difference. Okay, so you see when I put in a V box, that comes down and it comes, all the elements comes one by one down. Okay,
Yes. Yes.
that option A, I didn't give selected or enabled. Okay, so that means by default enabled is equal to true and select is false. Okay, so for the second one I have put enabled equal to false. That's why you see that it is disabled. Okay, third one I put enabled equal to false and selected equal to true, so that the user will not be able to change the behavior of this option C.
Okay.
Okay. Now you want value state, right? So let me make it true, and I say value state is warning. Okay, save. If Okay, so you see this one got in orange color warning. Okay, and if I put, I'll take another one. Okay, so option D, okay, is error. Okay, so error. Okay, and information. We have put success. So they have given value state for warning and error, but not for success. Okay.
Okay. That is option E.
So this is not there. Okay. Let me see. So for success, they have not put. Okay, it should be green. Okay, but I will tell you when we are validating the input elements, then I will change the value state to success uh, error state. Okay. For some things they will not put, some things it will come. There are 4 value states. Okay, success, warning, error, default. So default means you will see a normal one like option A. Okay, for success it will be green. Okay, so that is checkbox. Okay.
That grouping of the checkbox, how it will be?
You need to use the like there are grouping you can do with like radio buttons. There is another input called radio buttons. Okay, so I will show you that one as well. Radio buttons. So there is another input element called radio button. Okay, so typically it should be like a. So you see the radio buttons, only one is selected.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, so if you see this one, you have the group name.
Okay.
Okay, and one will be selected true. So other based on the group name, you will have that one. Okay, so
Okay.
radio button group. So you can have this like this radio button groups. Okay, so.
Okay, like so for checkbox, it is not that we can do multiple if you want.
Yes. Okay, but you see for this all these things you can select anything. Okay, so matrix. So this they have used matrix layout here. Okay.
Yeah.
So and here they haven't group, or they have used a radio button group. Okay,
Okay. Okay.
so if you want, let's see the radio options. Okay, so there is, you see that there is no controller here. So for the radio buttons, we can use, okay, let's see. I'm putting another V box. Okay. So for radio button, you have this radio button. Okay, and the group, there is an attribute called group name, text, and selected. Okay, save this. Okay. So you see the radio buttons works. Okay, so we have, for the radio button, we need radio button, group name, attribute, and text, and another attribute called selected. So whichever by default we set selected equal to true, that will be selected. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Want this one? Let's see. See checkbox. Okay. Okay, let's see this one as well, radio button group. So if you want to have this group, you can use radio button group. Okay, so how you can use without radio button group and with only radio buttons, but both behaves similar. Okay. Okay, so I'm putting in another V box. Radio button. Okay, so the difference here, these two, is they have declared a radio button group element. Okay, so and in this one they have a sub elements called buttons. Okay. Okay, they have a sub element called buttons, and in that sub element they have declared the radio buttons and they have given the IDs. Okay, here also you can give the IDs as well. Okay, so and in the buttons we have the radio buttons and ID and text. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Some are enabled by default, they are enabled, and if you don't want to be enabled, you can put this enabled false. Okay, let's click save. Okay. So you see now this the difference, use the output is same, but it is grouped. Okay, by differently using a group name, and without using group name, using a radio button group.
Okay.
Okay, so the behavior will be the same. Okay, so
Okay.
now see, we'll see the check whether they have given checkbox group or not. Okay, checkbox group. They have not given the checkbox group. Okay, let's search with group. Group. Now they have only user input as your radio button group, but for checkbox they have not given. Okay.
Okay.
So I haven't included the radio buttons, but we have covered the radio button input element as well. Okay, that's good. Okay. Now So we can use build a form where you can say that in the person form we can put whether he's a gender, it's male or female, radio buttons.
Yeah, yes.
So in today we have covered 12.5, 2012, 17. So we have covered the topics like radio buttons,
Yeah, checkbox.
box,
Yeah.
uh,
Control.
hook methods,
Yeah.
okay, behavior of input elements, okay. Uh,
Yeah.
we have covered these. So okay, so this is useful session for you today.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, so you have something to revise. Okay, so you can learn these things. Okay, so let's see
Yeah,
the
yes.
API. Okay,
Okay.
I will tell you about the checkbox. You just check for the radio buttons. Okay.
Okay.
So for the radio buttons, there will be ID. Okay. So we have discussed selected. Okay, so if you say selected equal to true, that will be checkbox will be checked. Enabled, if you say by default it is true, and if you say enabled equal to false, that becomes disabled. Okay, so name you can text. So if you want to what text should be displayed after the checkbox, we have this seen this text. Okay, so text direction is if you want right or left, okay, you can have that one, but if it is more, it is concentrated, text direction is mostly concentrated for the Arabic, okay, because they start with right, so we don't use much, but you need to see when if the requirement comes. Okay, we can specify the width, we can specify the text alignment, whether it should begin, end, left or right. Okay, so editable, so if you say editable, it will be editable, otherwise it will not be, you will not be able to edit it. Value state, okay, you have seen success, you have seen the warning and the error. Okay, the okay, we'll see what are the methods there in this one. There's so many methods. Okay, so okay. Okay, you can get you can put get enabled, get set set. If you say get enabled, so you will get the whether it is enabled or disabled. You will get the state. If it is enabled, you will get it as true. If it is disabled, you will get as false. Get enabled, you will get false. Okay, so get get selected. Okay, so if the checkbox is selected, you will get, if you say, if you call this method get selected, you will get as true. Okay, if it is not selected, you will get it as false. Okay, get text is the text text of the checkbox. Okay, whatever text you have put, that text will come. So you can change the text alignment, text direction. Okay, you can change the value state. You can get the value state and get the width. Okay, so likewise. So suppose if you want to set it to false, even though this is disabled and you cannot check it. Okay, so then you need to use set enabled. Okay, so if you say set enabled equal to true, if it is false, then it will be becomes editable to edit it. Okay, so set text. So the text is option A. So I don't want option A, but I want to change the label to option ABC. Okay, then you need to set the text. You need to get the ID of that one. Okay, and then you can set the text. Can set the
Okay.
value state. Okay, by default, I have put that it is in when the user checks that one, some other reasons and some other reason for other validation it is failing. So I simply put that checkbox value state as error. Okay, but when I correct the form, when I submit the form, that should not be in the error state, and the error state should go. Okay, so then I need to change the value state. Okay, so then I say set value state none, then the error will be gone. Okay, so these are the some of the methods. Okay, so just go through this API, and when we are implementing the form, we will come to know the behavior of these things, how we can use these methods, like we have seen today, that enable disable behavior of the input element, visible other button, and visible, make the visible by visible enable button, and the false or true. Okay, right, Danny?
Yeah.
Okay, so go
Yeah.
through these
It's
things, the other API radio button. So if you have any question, just ask me tomorrow. Okay,
okay.
don't
Okay.
go through all the methods. Okay, just to mainly concentrate on enable, disable, set direction, get direction, set text, get text.
Get text. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so some of the attributes which we have discussed, which we are able to do. Okay, so if you try to know all the things, you might forget it. Okay, so we need they have given this API because depending upon the requirement, we need to use that.
Okay.
Okay, then only you will remember. Okay, I have to do this one, that one. Then I need to use which method, which attribute. Then only you will come to know.
Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's it for today. Okay,
Okay. Okay.
uh, we'll meet tomorrow, same time.
Yeah. Okay. Fine.
Okay, bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.